made you
barrel? Like, I don't pour
I
bad
don't even know
stuff.
what single barrel means.
Does that mean so? Most bourbons come from like
Warehouse?
they've got like hundreds and hundreds of different barrels, and then what the whiskey producer will do is they'll dump a bunch of them in there together so that they get a very consistent type of
Right. Yeah.
type of product, like Jack Daniels. Like that, every Jack Daniels tastes the same because they probably
If I go to
put
Louisiana
thousands.
or I go to New York,
Yeah.
it's going to taste the same.
Exactly, because they put thousands and thousands of barrels in there into one batch. Single barrel or like small batch means like, oh, they only have like 30 barrels, so you get a little more
So it's like
variety. Or
this one might taste different from another.
it's going to taste
batch.
very different than, like, I've got another single barrel that's supposedly
more exclusive.
exactly the same, and it tastes completely different. Like, doesn't even taste like it's from the same distillery.
That's wild.
Yeah, so you come around here more, you'll learn some stuff about the bourbon world. But
I need to.
We're just gonna move
because
that
I
a
know
little
it's like,
closer.
I know it's what people that are doing well in their lives are know a lot about bourbon.
That or doing very poorly in
Or-
their lives.
Or spending
It's
too
a-
much money.
Yeah,
on
it's a
bourbon.
wide difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, dude, welcome to the
Welcome.
podcast. Like, honestly, it's been,
Thanks for inviting me.
dude, I think it's been like 2 years since I've seen you.
So
Like,
you guys don't know,
um,
this is
it was
Ryan
like-
Ryan Boyd. He's a local real estate agent. He does a couple other things as well that we're gonna dive into here a little bit. I guess you're kind of a serial entrepreneur, kind of like
I've
Nick
been floating
here.
around. I've
Nick
been
here a
floating
little
around.
bit. So
My mantra is if I can do 80% of somebody that I idolize, then I'm doing well.
all right. I like that. So what do you do 80%? Like, give us your origin story.
Origin story?
Yeah.
Getting into real estate?
Yeah. How'd you get here?
Um,
yeah, why are you sitting here right
Yeah.
that's a good question.
I
That's a good
offered
question.
bourbon is why he's sitting here. Come
Yeah,
on.
right.
I heard Speakeasy and I said I was in.
Yeah.
No, my whole life, it was very strange. I was homeschooled. I was in a band with my brothers.
Okay.
And we played music nonstop for like 10 years straight.
So were you guys like Hanson or something?
Just like the Hanson brothers.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was all like, I grew up in a very Christian family. So it was very like oriented towards that. Yeah, I was homeschooled. I did not ever live a normal life at any point ever.
Okay.
Didn't do public school. I was homeschooled and I was traveling in a van playing music with my brothers. So college obviously seemed like, well, if my whole life is not normal, then why would I do college? So I decided, no, I'll skip on college. After the band thing had ended, I kind of figured out what made sense for me. I was very personable, always somebody that communication was important for me. Being in a musical career, I ran our Twitter and began to think of maybe like 80,000 followers at our peak.
Oh, wow.
So like we did pretty decent.
Yeah,
Overall.
absolutely.
It wasn't nothing, but not enough to like take it mainstream, like big.
Yeah.
So then I realized I'm like, all right, I got to figure out my life. And so stumbled my way into real estate. Everyone that I idolized always had something to do with real estate. And so that's how I got started. I called one of my buddies in Kansas. He was flipping houses. He was doing Airbnbs. And I said, how did you start? Because he was also in a Christian organization that I was part of. And so he said, well, get your license. I got my license. I ended up buying an investment property. I was always a big penny pincher growing up. So I had enough money that I could buy an investment property on a $17,000 a year income.
Ooh, what year was that?
Income? That was 2017.
Okay. That's actually the
2017.
same year I got in here in the
Is
new
it
market.
really?
Yeah. Too funny.
I was a server and had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I was on the right track when all my coworkers said, ooh, real estate, too scary. Don't buy.
Yeah.
Bad idea. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if any of these losers are telling me what to do, I
Yeah.
should do the
Yeah.
opposite of what they're doing. I did,
Yeah.
and it worked out.
I mean, I bet they bought Bitcoin at the time though.
I wish they did. But no, Bitcoin was never said.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. Yeah, I started that way. Once I bought my first property, I became a real estate agent. I also was my own property manager to understand how did that process work, finding a tenant, rehabbing a property. I put all my money on the line. I essentially I don't want to say the word YOLO, but I threw everything into real estate as I started. And I got tenants and I was like, holy crap, this is actually working.
Yeah.
And I got my license and then I started I posted on Bigger Pockets my property, and I said, 22-year-old bought a duplex, and here's my cash flow. And then I started getting some clients. One of my first clients, Zach Becker, who's been around in the sphere a little bit, he introduced me to Dan Perez. Dan Perez obviously is a name that everybody knows. And that's how we got started.
Nice. So you started investing first.
I started as an investor first.
So
exactly. Yeah.
And then you kind of fell into getting your license just so you knew the
he got his license because he was the
I was
penny
getting
pincher.
my license before I bought a property. But
Okay.
I had a good opportunity come up, and Phil Kirk, great agent. He's with that properties. He's still there. Great guy. So that's how I got started though.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was a duplex in Garfield Park for $65,000, 2-bed, 1 bathroom. It's renting out for $1,000 aside now.
Yeah.
So I spent maybe $20,000 getting it up and running. And I'm like, man, if I only had more than $17,000 a year as a server.
Yeah.
You would have crushed
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Man.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda is crazy, isn't it?
Wish we could still find those deals.
Yeah. Because that probably is $180,000, $200,000 property today.
I would say probably 230.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Garfield Park, duplex.
Yeah.
2-1. Yeah. Probably 230.
It's doing 1,000 aside, you said?
Yeah. It should be probably 1,200, but I have good tenants, and that's a whole nother topic. But
so I know you, well, there are a million directions I want to go. I feel like what you just said. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what your portfolio looks like today. Are you still managing it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my portfolio right now, it's 10 properties total. I own all of them myself. So it's 3 duplexes, 4 single families, and I self-manage. For me, I've just kind of found that this is, to be straightforward, I don't think the property management scene, there's not one that I would particularly point people towards. That's not a slight towards anybody, but as I got started, there was a cycle of different property managers that would come in and come out and come in and come out. And so I'm scared to refer anybody.
Yeah.
And I've heard bad stories of people getting burned a lot of money. And I'm not throwing names out, but
I mean, Dan Perez got burned. I mean, I was the number one person that got burned in that particular situation.
How I heard your name first was my parents were partnering with that property manager at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
All right. I probably emailed with your parents
all
more.
I've heard people do is like they're managing the property manager as much as I would manage my tenants. And since I live here locally, that's an advantage I have that maybe some people don't have.
Yeah.
But I can vet my own tenants, I can manage it, and I have my own construction crews. So it's pretty low hands on for me. Maybe 5 hours a month is about the amount that I spend.
It's not bad at all, man.
Not at all.
Nice.
So for 10 units, yeah. I have a part ownership in an apartment complex, but aside from that, that's about it.
Is that your first apartment complex or
second? Yeah. So the first one we bought and then already sold. So we basically got a 1.5 times multiplier on the return. So someone that invested, say, 100,000, they saw about $150,000 to $160,000 return within 2.5 years. So that was an apartment in Terre Haute, which was a really fun one with my Margarella.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Good deal.
Yeah. A lot of good, lot of
to that one was
names
a good
coming up here
property
that we know.
manager is everything.
Yeah.
That's
The property manager.
everything on the apartment side.
Yeah.
If you have a good, he was our linchpin. And my concern was, I told Mike, I said, I was like, if we had a bad property manager, would this property have worked? And we're both like, probably not.
Yeah. So are you basically flipping these apartments?
Almost. I mean,
or are you just selling them just because the price is too good not to?
We got an offer out of nowhere. It wasn't marketed anywhere. We just got an offer and we're like, yeah. Sure. Yeah. We had 10-year debt. It was a 10-year adjustable rate mortgage. So we were at year 2 at that point. So we weren't in a rush to sell, which was great. We were originally planning on a 5-year, but I convinced my partner to do a 10 and we felt way less pressure. But the number made sense for us. So we were like, okay, sure. Yeah, we'll offload it.
Heck yeah.
As a GP, like you typically don't see the money until the sale anyways.
Yeah.
So it made sense for both our investors and then us as GPs.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah, that's an awesome turnaround.
Yeah. So I guess what everyone's probably thinking, how much money did you actually need to save up to start at your $17,000 a year job?
Okay.
To buy your $65,000
versus 2017.
Well, regardless, that's
different.
Yeah.
I know.
Different.
Yeah. Correct. But
but I'll give you guys
in
some
relative
reference.
terms, I guess.
I'll give you guys some reference. I had next to no money. I penny pinched all my savings throughout my whole life at that point. I was privileged to live with my parents at the time. I think I had saved maybe about $25,000, give or take. I had invested some money in Apple. I sold all my Apple stock just to buy this property. I thought that I had enough for the rehab, and I was hoping I did. But again, I knew nothing. I was trusting my agent way too much. A lot of mistakes that I made worked out, but I definitely was pretty fortunate that everything did work out. So I made some mistakes, but fortunately I was okay. So about $25,000 is what I needed. 17,000 for the down payment and about 15.
So a year's worth of work.
A year's worth of work. Exactly. Yeah. And then 15,000 for the rehab.
So you had to invest 2 years worth of salary in order to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you invested, let's call it $35,000 when it's all said and done. In that ballpark.
In the ballpark. It's
and over time, you've probably made a couple more upgrades that have been paid for by the tenants.
Correct.
But like $35,000, you bought it for 65, you said?
65.
65. And now it's worth.
It's a duplex. You got to do a 25% down payment or 30%.
Yeah. And so realistically, you have like 5x'd your money on that.
Yeah.
If not more.
If not more. It's the power of appreciation. I never even accounted for appreciation. That's back when cash flow was a bit more prevalent.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know about Burr. I think Burr wasn't a thing back then.
It was, I think, just becoming.
I invest this money, I get this return. Return is good. That was my thought process. And then people started talking about Burr, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Probably something.
But I never even did it. I've never done the Burr strategy in my life personally. I've never done it.
Everybody back then was probably doing it, or a lot of people were probably doing it. Just wasn't called Burr.
Didn't have a name.
It didn't have a name. Yeah, probably didn't have a name.
So
gotcha.
Yep. So that's how we got started. Then I bought my first investment property, became a real estate agent. Then I just started blasting bigger pockets. That's how I started getting some initial traction, clientele. Really kind of pushed myself into that niche, and one way after another, here I am on this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so who are your clients now? Like, who are you working with? Because actually, how do you split your time? I guess that's a better question is like, it sounds like you're doing a lot of different stuff. How do you split your time and how do you think about that?
I've never put too much thought about into it. It's all it's all real estate one way or another, whether it's, you know, being a real estate agent, managing, flipping properties, all of it's kind of the same avenue. So I don't know if I would call it splitting time, but it's definitely like a day-by-day thing. I feel like as a real estate agent, your schedule's never like set. It's not like at 9 a.m. I wake up and I do this, that, and then I close shop at 5. Last night I was up until 10:30 trying to wait on a client to sign a DocuSign. So yeah, my time is just kind of all over. But isn't that the entrepreneur way? Like that's just how it is.
Yeah, and I guess the better question is, how do you define yourself? And based on what you have just said, it sounds to me like you view yourself as an agent who's an investor.
Yep.
Is that the right way of kind of thinking about it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Investor started it, and then I became an agent, and then the agent thing has kind of started to take over more of my time than being an investor, because I haven't bought any properties in probably about 2 years, except for yesterday, which I just put a flip under contract. So.
Hey, congratulations.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, dude, honestly, like that mirrors exactly what you and I were talking about before we hit the record button, which is like, I was an investor and then I somehow became a contractor, and now I don't have time to be an investor anymore. So
it's definitely, my clients are always my priority. I take a lot of pride in my work, and I want to make sure anytime I say something, my overall goal as a person is under promise and over deliver. I always take that approach with any deal that I do. Because I think a lot of times agents might want to paint the best picture about a property or the best picture about a flip of like, here's your best case ARV scenario, versus the reality might be, well, it's actually on a bad street and you don't have a garage.
Is it all right? I'd love to get your opinion. You're obviously a really good agent. You've grown, you've done incredible things. I hear stories of, and I see comp reports and all of that from a lot of people who are looking to do their first, second, whatever. And I look at some of these reports and I question sometimes whether or not like these people are actually acting as a fiduciary for their clients.
I question that at times too.
Yeah. Do you think it's incompetence in those situations, or do you think it's
anybody can have a one-off?
Totally. You can make a mistake.
Anytime.
I guarantee you have given a bad comp once.
I've given a bad comp. I mean, we did a deal on 16th Street where I felt so bad about it that it didn't meet my projections.
Dude, I forgot about that.
Like,
now I'm mad at him.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh shoot. That was one where I personally I was like, oh man, that didn't deliver how I thought it would, and I felt bad about it. So like there are one-offs for people, but I think it's like consistent behavior, and that's where referrals and references mean everything.
Yeah.
To everyone. And Indy is a small town. Like people talk, right?
Mhm.
And especially people that are in this ecosphere. I mean, like everybody kind of talks
Oh, yeah.
about experiences with other people. One-offs happen with anyone.
Yeah.
Right. But it happens a lot.
It
I
does
see it all
happen
the
a
time.
lot.
There's definitely people that I've seen where I'm like, that seems like a best case scenario in every aspect.
Yeah.
And you're the only one that can financially benefit from this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it definitely, me as an agent, that kind of goes against our code of ethics, so to speak. So, which kind of makes me, I don't like that.
So there's something I'm seeing a lot right now, and I'm curious from your perspective. Now, I get a lot of visibility to newbie investors being referred to us by agents who we know, like, and trust. But they'll just come to us and they'll be like, "Well, how much does it cost to fix this place up?" And I'll just be like, "Well, can you give me a little more information here? Like, what are you doing?" Well, I just want to make it rent ready. I'm like, great, okay. Like,
What does
can
that
you show me comps? Like what are you looking for?
What is your version?
Yeah,
Of rent
and
ready?
and maybe it's the fact that Indy's a hot market and there's so many people that, like, so many newbies are on Bigger Pockets for the first time, settle on Indianapolis, reach out to agents, and agents just get burnt out of having to do the same sales pitch over and over and over again for the uneducated first time investor. Is that your like, what do you think's going on there?
It's hard, right? Because I feel like a lot of experienced agents want to work with experienced investors, right? Investors that know their numbers, know their costs. Because if I take on, let's just say, an investor from the West Coast, for instance, they might think an inspection report here in the Midwest looks way worse on their market opposed to the Indy market. And so they might think, oh, I need to do a French drain system. I have to treat the mold this way. California, we don't have basements. We have to fix this, that, and we have to spend $50,000 on the house. Meanwhile, that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it's like these houses are older. They do have some moisture problems. How bad is the moisture problem, and what do we need to do to properly fix it the right way? And there's a lot of dissonance. So an experienced agent, like, it's weird to say that for myself, but an experienced agent, for me, I'm like, I don't like going through that song and dance and explaining over and over and over again. So working with more experienced investors, I feel more effort on my side to work with people that know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Or know what they're doing.
Yeah. Like,
but also
you send me.
No, but also, like, if you are working with a newer agent, it's helpful to know, like, do they know what they're talking about when it comes to that?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you send a deal to Brooks. Brooks is very quickly going to know whether or not it's going to make sense. Yep. There's not going to be a whole lot of hand holding through that process. And maybe it's people shortcutting even the newbies in those situations.
Yeah. I even still get asked questions from other agents. Like, if I send out a deal, because if you watch this podcast, I do a lot of wholesaling. So I'll send out a deal and they'll be like, okay, what are your numbers on this? I'm like, my numbers, like, what do you mean? I could tell you any kind of, I don't know what your investment strategy is for this property. If you want to go and just park your money somewhere, which a lot of people do, I was like, this is not going to be a property that, like, for example, this might not be a property that you're going to burr. Like, it's really hard to do that these days. You're probably not going to find a ton of that. Is this going to cash flow? Is it going to break even?
Investor. I was like, I haven't seen that in a minute.
Yeah. Like, is it going to break even? Are you looking for appreciation? Are you looking just to have some debt pay down? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, I don't know what your numbers, how am I supposed to run numbers for?
Well, you're an agent. You get it. There's a lot of questions I have. And then a lot of times I feel like newer investors maybe don't know exactly what it is that their goal is. That they want to make money, right?
Yeah.
But they don't know exactly what their goal is. Therefore, for me as an agent, it's kind of hard for me to tell you, well, what is it? Like, are you going?
You trying to retire off this property?
Are you trying to flip a house real quick? Are you trying to wholesale? Like, are you trying to Airbnb? Like, there's so many ways that you can go about it. So for any of the newer investors out there, be specific about what you're trying to do, because it makes our job a lot easier. Like, if you send me a property and say, what do you think about it? Then I'm going to be like, well, how? Like, are you flipping it? Are you renting it? Are you Airbnb-ing it?
Or maybe a better question is coming to us and saying, like, what do you think the best investment strategy would be for this?
That's a good way to say it.
Which is also going to be different, but it's going to be like, all right, if I'm looking to cash flow this would be a good property, or this wouldn't be a good property. Or if I'm, like we just said, so at least I can give you a little bit better idea. Like, I just don't understand when people come to me and I'm like, I don't have an answer.
Yeah,
like, help me a little bit.
Yeah. Tell me the outcome that you're looking for, and I can help, guide you on the path.
What I can say I have seen is, in this current market that we're in, the last 2 years, I feel like there's been a shift from the burr strategy when the interest rates were lower to more of a quicker profit, offload it faster, flip I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people switch towards flipping these days.
It's hard to flip right now. Like,
What was that?
I think it's hard to flip right now.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Because there's so many flippers, but there's nobody buying, not as many people, not gonna say nobody, not as many people buying buy and hold real estate. Conventional 20% down, buying it, renting it out, getting their 8%, 12%, whatever return. I don't see that as me. I don't see that ever.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Same
Other
thing on the
agents
side.
maybe are different, but for me personally, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I'd see, hey, how do I flip this and make 20 grand?
Mhm.
You know, that's what I see.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah, I would
It
say
used to be the buy and hold. Me as an agent, I love people that flip because I get to help you buy it.
Two
and sell it.
transactions.
2 transactions. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's hard. It's not easy. It's competitive.
yeah,
So
definitely. I feel like I don't know. I do a whole lot more of just like going towards the end buyer without doing like the total flip, like you're talking about. But that's hard to find those kind of deals. It's almost like I don't know. It's more of a diamond in the rough kind of a deal. But those are much easier to do. The wholesale deals, if you want to call it that. But like somebody who is an end buyer who's going to live there is a little bit easier to do.
Oh yeah.
But it's again,
real estate's broad.
yeah,
As we know, there's so many different approaches to it. For anybody that's wanting to get started, I would just say find your niche. Figure out what it is. For me,
Mhm.
I bought an investment property and I pushed into that niche hard
yeah,
because I thought at the time I looked really young. Like I still look pretty young for my age, but I looked really young when I started.
Yeah. I
and
just did the
thought-
math on your age, and I'm not in love with you right now.
I'm 30. When I got started though, I was concerned of me trying to talk to some like $1 million property owner, me being like 22 when I got started or 24, whatever it was, and saying, trust me, I know how to sell your property as a 24-year-old.
yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, let me really push in the investment side of things. I know there's a lot of out-of-state people investing in Indy. So let me really push in on that market. I bought a property, so I have street cred, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's what I pushed into. I knew my advantages and I pushed into it. For out-of-state people or someone else, maybe figure out, okay, well, maybe wholetailings. Maybe I don't have the contractor connections. So maybe I should do wholesaling.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes more sense. Or maybe I have a great Airbnb property manager. Maybe I could find a niche in like midterm rentals and HOA neighborhoods that don't allow short-term rentals.
Yeah.
There's different ways that you can go about real estate. I
So
think you got to find a niche.
I think you're saying some interesting stuff there. So if you were, I come to you and I say, I've got a couple bucks in my pocket.
Yep.
I want to start investing out here in Indianapolis. I'm a long distance real estate investor. I'm from California. I got one of those calls earlier today.
Yep.
What do you say to somebody? Like, I know you want your experienced investor, but you get the call from the new kid.
So I guess that kind of goes into my business as a real estate agent. For me, I work with a lot of out-of-state investors. What I found as an agent was my biggest road to entry, or my biggest roadblock, was not just finding the deal, but making sure the deal goes smoothly. A lot of the issue that I would find for these out-of-state investors is they don't have any contractor connections. They don't have any team that they can trust. They don't have numbers that they can trust. And so that's where I actually started to onboard a few people on the construction side for my side, of where I can at least give you some quotes, give you my experience as a flipper, my experience as a real estate agent of like what it is that people want in this neighborhood. Don't put granite countertops in a neighborhood where it's selling under 150.
Yeah.
Do butcher
Yeah.
block.
Yeah.
I can give you all of those things. But where I can help my clients a lot is that I can give them all of that advice, all within the same sphere, and provide that product for them. Because I found myself managing the contractors more than my clients would be managing the contractors, and I'm not getting paid for it, which is fine. But I can give a way better consistent product by doing it all myself.
Doing it all yourself. Expand on that.
So not only am I a real estate agent, but I also flip properties.
Yeah.
I just put a flip under contract today.
Yeah.
But I have a construction team.
Nice.
And I know their numbers. I know my numbers, and I can make sure that I can deliver a product for you. So for instance, I have an out-of-state client from California. He bought a property here. I walked to the property and I said, I think your rehab's going to be around this price point. You can use my crew or whatever crew you want to use, but my crew, here's what we could quote for you. He used my crew. We rehabbed it. We put it under contract within 10 days, and we're expected to close next week. So I'm a bit.
So
of
what's
a
your
one-stop
relationship?
shop.
What's your relationship with that crew? That's what I'm trying to understand.
I manage it.
So you're a project manager. So they're
Project
the
manager.
general contractor. You're the project manager.
Correct.
They
Yes.
get you with a kickback, or how does that work?
So all the fees come through me,
Okay.
my company, myself, similar to off-leash management. So mine is
Well,
Revel.
no, we're actually a GC.
I'm sorry. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Project manager.
Yeah.
So Revel LLC, that's my company. So you would pay Revel LLC, I pay my contractor, and then that's how that process works.
Nice.
Gotcha. Cool.
Dude, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the model. Does put you up for a lot of liability.
So
We
yes,
did the project management for
yes
a while,
and
and
no.
that's
So
when we transitioned.
yes, with like stuff that needs a license, specifically like plumbing, roofing, stuff like that. I'll sub that out with licensed professionals. Cosmetic stuff, that's what Mike handles. The smaller stuff.
So
Like,
they're not licensed.
I mean, I would say
Yeah,
for the
they're
most part-
licensed.
for
Yeah.
the most part, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say probably not licensed. But I mean, like
Gotcha.
putting in, do you need a license to put in floor?
No.
Paint?
No, absolutely
like-
not. No, that's handyman stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more of
Gotcha.
like, I guess
Gotcha.
it's
I'm
more of
with
a cosmetic handyman service. And then anything that needs a license or proper license, like if I'm replumbing a full property or rewiring a whole property, yeah, I'll hire ABC electrical company to go
Mhm.
into it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does
That
make
makes
sense? So my liability is lower
yeah.
when it comes to that. So
Yeah, but you already have your team that you trust. so
After
you-
this conversation, yeah, after we hit the end of the record button, I'll tell you a couple horror stories and might adjust
Please. Yeah.
some
No, that
might
would be
adjust a
great.
couple things.
well, that's why we're on the podcast.
Yeah. But that might be once we stop recording this one, because I got to give some names, unfortunately,
Yeah,
to explain
please.
that situation. Because that's actually, very honestly, that's how Off Leash Construction started. It was we were doing project management for people under the off-leash investments, which was my investing.
Yep.
And unfortunately, contractors all have an expiration date that I've noticed so far. And so
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people do.
yeah, not just contractors. I guess you're right. Some agents, some property managers. And so when they went bad, my project management fee couldn't cover
Right.
because
Yeah.
my name was the one on the line,
Correct.
not their name.
That is
And
so
so
true. Yeah.
the 10% or whatever, I don't know what you're charging, 10% couldn't cover a lot of those horror stories. So
That
that,
makes
I may have some thoughts there for you to help out.
I think you're at a different scale than maybe I am.
Okay,
You know,
maybe.
mine's a bit more of, I don't want to call it a boutique shop, but I mean, it's like I have, 1 to 2 crews that do stuff.
Yeah.
It's smaller scale. It's like servicing my personal clientele.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Totally fair.
here and there.
Yeah.
So
Totally fair,
but
man.
yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
sounds good. Brooks, what other directions do you want to go with this sucker?
I kind of wanted to go into where, I guess, kind of like a my niche a little bit. Where are you finding and your investors finding most of your deals? Are you finding them on market? Do you enjoy working with wholesalers, which nobody does? Do you?
I'm trying
Get
to
some
think of the
pocket
last time I had a
listings.
client buy from a wholesaler. Maybe.
Well, they do it behind your back.
What was that?
They do it behind your back.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't care. For
Yeah.
me, it's just like get the deal.
Yeah.
Let me help you sell it. Like that's my goal. So if you cut me out on the buy side, like whatever. If you found it, then I don't expect a commission.
Yeah.
Right? If you found it and I didn't participate, then I don't expect a commission. That's fine. But if you ask me for comps, you ask me to walk it, you ask me to scope of work. Okay, all right, then
That's an
You know.
engagement.
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
engagement. Exactly. I would say properties that have been sitting on the market longer are usually better targets than properties that are brand new to the market. I hate saying that to give anybody ideas, but yeah, I would say that's a good place to start for people to find deals. That's been, the agents that suck to work with. Well, if they suck to work with you, they probably suck to work with other agents. So
Mhm.
how motivated is your agent to get the deal done?
Yeah.
What are their incentives? For me, if I'm going to be your agent on the buy side and the sell side and use my construction crew, my motivation might be higher than X agent that's
Yeah.
getting their $1,500 commission on the buy side.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I might be more motivated to get the deal done than X agent because there's more for me to, more for us to grow together in that respect.
So your advice would be to find a experienced investor agent to help you find that.
Well,
first deal
yeah, that and be
or-
creative.
Be
I mean,
creative.
like if you
Okay.
see a deal, let's think about it. I went to before you and I met, Brooks,
Mhm.
I went to a wholesaler deal. Guess what? It looked like a deal on paper. I walked there was 25 people and it's an off market property.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? I walked in.
Well, and then
I
they want highest and best.
I immediately walked out.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, what's the point? I know someone's going to pay too much money for this and I'm just not interested. So
Yeah.
be
I-
creative.
I haven't bought from a wholesaler in a while. I think you might have been the last person I bought from. It's a wholesaler, simply because everybody's doing that same thing where these are like not off market deals
They're not
at this point.
No.
They're
No,
just
they're
not.
an
They're not
auction
on
at
the
that
MLS.
They're basically an auction. It's like, all right,
It's an auction.
It's a
Yeah,
high,
that's a great word.
give me your highest and best, and whoever has the best offer gets the price.
Yeah.
And which
I hate
we've
that.
talked,
And me as an
we
agent,
talked
I've
the
had-
other day, and I hate
Correct.
that so much. I won't work with people. Just can't do it.
Well, good for the wholesalers because they're finding buyers that are paying outrageous amounts. I already made a post about this on our Facebook group, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just like, like people are always assuming best case ARVs,
Mhm.
period.
And best case renovation.
Best case renovation.
That
and then you're
sewer
doing the
line has
bare
not been
minimum.
inspected, and
It's not been inspected.
Yeah.
Best case ARV, best case renovation. You didn't inspect the property. You're paying a premium for it, and then you're expecting it to happen to sell in one of the hardest to sell markets that we've been in recently, where buyers are very picky.
yeah.
Mhm.
Good luck. Like,
Unless you're looking to park money for a while. I mean, that's
well,
really, that's
my
really
thought is I
it.
think a lot of people are losing money, but I could be wrong. Maybe. I'm
Well,
wrong.
it's because they only
Well-
do one deal.
There you go.
They do that first deal with the wholesaler, and then they're done because they
I
just got
think there's
burned.
a lot of turn and burn in that industry, and again, wholesalers are going to make their money. I'm not going to hate on it for it,
Sure.
But that's just what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Like-
I'm more of the let's sustain a relationship. If we can do a bunch of deals at low profit margins, it's going to help everybody, right? Instead of one and
Consistency.
done, and then that's it. That's all you got.
That's a turn and burn model, which I'm not going to say it's wrong.
It hurts.
Like,
Honestly, it hurts me because I mean, they just buy up properties at a higher price than I can
Yeah.
because
yeah.
I'm
Well,
not going to have buyers that are going to go
because they've got better distribution on the back end.
exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've scaled down what we're doing from a direct to seller simply because wholesalers are willing to pay more than I can, and I'm shit. All right, take it.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
them at
don't
all.
blame them either. I just don't like.
I don't like how it's working in the market.
I don't
but
like that auction style. And they're not willing to talk to you or anything like that. So
No.
it's frustrating. But,
So sorry, I got to take this call.
Yeah, you're
You're
good, man.
but
No.
yeah, other than that,
What else is going on in your world, buddy?
nothing. I got a few deals coming in. If anybody's watching, we're watching here in the next couple days. We got a few easy wholesale deals. It's kind of what I've been getting a lot coming through lately. In terms of don't really need to do much to it to throw it on the market.
Yeah.
Unless you want to. I mean, you could, but you're not going to get the return.
I've got a house right now that it's under contract, but we're not set to close until March.
Where's
Uh,
that?
It's like literally right next to the fairgrounds. I got it for, I think,
Like Ralston area, like the
Yeah.
north of the fairgrounds, right?
no, it's just to the west.
Okay.
Like literally like a block to the west of the fairgrounds. And I got a good price on it. I think our ARV is like 450 on it, and we've got it for under 2.
nice.
So TBD what I'm going to do with it, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the thought process. Align crushed it on that one.
Yeah.
John and Align crushed it. So I'm just hands off on that sucker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I may end up taking that one down and doing that one myself. We'll see.
I know. I think I don't know if we said this on one of the other podcasts. Your one of your goals this year was to start doing some more investment yourself instead of
Instead of just the construction.
yeah. I mean, I know the construction is an investment.
So here's what I want to do. I want to do like 4 to 5 6-figure type of renovations. Yeah, like big renovations. So I'm putting this out there, Ryan, for you too, in case it comes across. Like, I'm not interested in the cosmetic stuff. Like, I know everybody and their mom just wants to paint the walls, maybe put some new flooring down.
Take out the carpet, paint the walls.
Yeah. No, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm looking for 4 to 5 this year. Like, I want knob and tube. I want galvanized piping. I want a bad main line. Like,
You want a $50,000 property that's going to be an ARV of $350.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm. 350. That's actually a really good call.
Business talk. Do you do new construction at all?
We actually are doing our first new construction duplex. I've never done it before.
Okay.
So we're doing our first one. I'm really excited. Somebody took a shot on us, and they got a great price for it. Let me put it that way. Their cost per square foot is silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be one of those really cool opportunities for us. So
What is time frame
congrats.
on something like that?
about
for you
9
guys?
months,
9 months.
give or take. Yeah.
I came across a deal in Cottage Home where
Okay.
it's kind of like a line of maybe 3 or 4 homes that are all being sold separately with separate agents, but I know that they're all willing to get the deal done.
Yeah.
If you do new construction, if you'll bet on yourself, I can send you some details about that because I think that ARV for a new build and cottage home, if you can do a carriage house too, I mean, you're probably talking like 850.
Yeah.
Yeah.
850
with a carriage house.
All right.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cottage home area.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I'm not super familiar.
So the only thing you have to deal with is the Cottage Home Association. However, the listing agent happens to be my ex-managing broker who is part of said.
Gotcha.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
So opportunity.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's
I can
awesome.
see the details. on
Yeah,
that.
love to check it out. Yeah, for me, I want I've been telling Brooks my objective this year is to cut my portfolio. Like I want to get down to 10 properties. That would
Yeah.
I'd consider that my win of the year.
Could we talk about that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Scale real estate. I think people talk about having X amount of doors is like a prerequisite to being successful or not.
Yeah.
If you want that.
Is it successful? Is it not successful? Like,
Well, I mean,
what
I've
do you
got
consider is doors
That's the question.
the end all be all?
no. As the person who I think has probably owned the most doors here,
I think you probably have.
at least in this room,
Yeah.
I think I have. I can tell you, door count is like manhood size. It matters more to you than anybody else.
I would agree.
I wrote down as my goal every single morning for years that I wanted to have 1,000 doors. Like that was the only thing that mattered was the door count. That's what I was measuring, and I grew. And you know what? I got great. I think my highest I ever got to was like 75 doors, give or take. And
That's a lot of doors.
it's a lot of doors.
That's a lot of doors.
And granted, I had bad partners throughout that, bad property managers, bad contractors. I got kicked in the teeth multiple times, but
You
what?
have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably more than anybody else here in the Indy market.
lot of
I've been
people.
kicked in the teeth. And now the greatest idea, like every time I see a text message or an email from my property manager, I hate my life. Like I know it's gonna suck. And so
And sewer lines out.
and so like I run a couple Airbnbs myself. I run 2 houses that are high-end houses, both north of 225, one of them closer to like 350 ARV.
Sure.
And then my Airbnbs I run in-house, and like those take maybe an hour a week to deal with. And
That's not bad.
no, and my return on investment is good. My return on my time invested is fantastic. But then every time I think about the rest of my portfolio, I hate it. And so,
Right.
is my ROI on those higher? Probably. But also, I hate my life with
But
those.
time. So, can we talk about time?
Yeah.
ROI and time.
Yeah.
That's
What-
a whole different thing. Because
Yeah.
if you were spending part-time job, hours on your portfolio for, 4% higher ROI when you could have been spending that money elsewhere, then was it worth your time?
Mhm.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like some people, like I would say a lot of my clients that started investing in real estate in Indy sold all their properties. They should have just been LPs in an apartment complex, and they would have spent way less time and gotten a better return on their investment if you invest with the right person
And at the right time.
and at the right time.
Like right
Yeah,
now, if
but
you,
the right deal, if
yeah.
you vet your
Yeah.
deals properly, and
Fair.
apartments are way less than single family houses. Apartment, you might get a deal like once or twice a year.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
pull the trigger on the right one.
Yeah.
One of my biggest clients on this apartment complex that we sold, their personal portfolio here in Indy, they bought a lot of crappy properties. They lost their neck on them when they should have just invested in the apartment complex, which they had way less hands-on time, and they multiplied their money 1.5 times within 2 years.
Yeah.
With no headaches. So there's different ways to invest in real estate,
Mhm.
Totally.
but relationship dependent, deal dependent. Make sure you vet your stuff.
Yeah. Like imagine if my property manager that I had in the past was doing one of those transactions. Imagine it wouldn't have been a 1.5x return. It would have been a negative 99% return. So yeah, again, it's finding the right people. It's finding people like you, finding people like Mike, who I think is amazing. Dan Perez, people like that.
Networking. And that's something else that Indy has a great network for, is that we have these Facebook groups. We have these podcasts.
We have people willing to help,
people
which a
willing to
lot of
help.
places don't.
I've looked into other markets before. I was looking in the Ohio market, and I didn't find any Facebook groups. I didn't find anybody willing to talk. Maybe bigger pockets I didn't check too hard, but Indy is definitely particular for that,
Yeah.
which I think is great.
Yeah. It's a generous market. It's that Midwest sensibility here.
Yeah, we've talked about that a ton. Like I'm from Maryland. I started investing there. I was an agent there when I first graduated. And that's just much more of a market where people are not going to be extending a hand unless it's
A little more dog eat dog.
Yes. Yeah. Unless there's something in it for them to be gained, they're not going to be helping you out. And they're not going to take their time to help you or even answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, aren't all investors that way, one way or another?
They are, but I mean, there's
But here we're different a little bit.
Dude, I have given
A
away
lot.
hundreds of hours of just free coaching.
A lot.
Maybe thousands of
Yeah.
hours of free coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody wants to meet me for coffee, I'm more than willing to do it. Like, I think there's a ton of people that are more than willing just to go
There's
sit
no
down.
ulterior agenda. Like, you don't have to buy me dinner. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm going to be going to get a coffee and working from a coffee shop probably at some point today. Let's meet up there. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what as we're kind of winding down here, what else do you think people need to be thinking about if they're wanting to buy their first next investment here in Indianapolis?
first next investment. Well, we talked about niches. I think connections are probably more important than anything. Having a good real estate agent is how I got started in real estate. I got lucky, to be honest. I feel lucky that Phil Kirk was a great agent for me.
Mhm.
That was half the battle. Contractors, lenders, title company. I think your connections are more important than the deal in some respects. Because one bad contractor can take a good deal completely down.
Yeah.
Yep.
It could be a great deal. It could be a great deal on numbers, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a $30,000 renovation, and then it turns out to be 50, and then all your profit margin gone.
Because
You bought a good deal.
Yeah.
You got a bad contractor.
Yep.
So connections are everything.
Or you didn't buy a good deal and the contractor intentionally underbid it to win the job,
Sounds like you're talking from experience.
and then change ordered the hell out of it. And yeah.
Is that why you started this company?
Yeah, that's why this name is on my chest. Yeah, my God, dude, so many bad contractors. Oh yeah, I think you're totally right. It's building the right network. Don't think you're the smartest person in the room. I think is the other thing is like,
I'm an idiot.
yeah, well, not you specifically, but go and pull the rest of the people here in this network. Everybody is kind of pointing in the same direction. Like, I've never heard a negative word here about Ryan, and now I'm gonna have to start saying some negative words because I forgot about his one bad comp.
Yeah,
but the one bad comp that I had totally forgotten. Off-leash construction. Yeah, we do good work. We might be more expensive than a truck in a truck. Like, that's probably my feedback. Brooks, like, has good deals, probably doesn't have as many deals as the mansion. Like, but like, go and talk to all the people in the network and try and understand what the actual
well, this is the same
reputation.
feedback. My brother, he was wanting to buy a property here in Indy, and he was having a hard time getting priced out of deals or whatever. So we started veering towards Detroit. He asked me, what would you suggest? I said the same thing I told him. I said, your network is everything. Communicate, get on the forums, get involved, talk to people. That's going to be, once you have your team here, that's how you scale in Indy.
Yeah, 100%.
If you have every little piece of the puzzle except a contractor, you can't scale.
Yeah.
You can't. Because the deal margins are so tight, your numbers have to be dialed in. So I would say network more than anything. Deal finding is one aspect, but networking, having your team, that's the other part. So
yeah,
love it. Ryan, people want to get in contact with you.
Yeah. So you can talk to me, Ryan Boyd. My number is 317-362-8882. I work with TrueBit Real Estate. So you can follow me on Instagram, social media, or anything else.
I tend to see you travel a lot on your social media.
That's my other part-time hobby.
All right. Yeah, I like it.
I post more about that than I do my real estate.
That's more interesting. Brooks, how about you, buddy?
Brooks at brbuys.indy.com. Just my first and last name on social media, Brooks Rothschild. Or get in touch through this podcast social media accounts. My phone number is 410-903-2294. If you need to get a hold of me, probably text me because my focus modes are on all the time. So
yeah, same thing here on this end. Off-leash construction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. I've kind of made a New Year's resolution to actually try a little bit on social media personally this year. So like, I haven't necessarily made that happen yet. So you can follow me at Nick Giulioni on Instagram. I think that's probably where my focus is going to be. Maybe some X as well. That feels pretty low lift. And then, yeah, if you need anything from a construction perspective, info@offleashconstruction.com. We got people who will quote for you. So
And
Don't
pretty cool,
underpromise yourself. More
pretty-
than just construction.
Yeah.
You know everything about real estate.
I know a couple things about other stuff.
and a pretty cool calculator too. If you're
Oh yeah. Offleashconstruction.com/calculator. It's got a whole calculator. I think it's better than Bigger Pockets, but I'm a little biased. No, it's completely free. Just no obligation, but helps you analyze properties a little bit quicker.
That's cool.
Yeah.
cool, guys. That was a good one.
Well, thanks for having me.
Dude,
Part of this. I didn't expect you to be here. I thought it was just gonna be Brooks and I.